one of Hollywood's most emblematic and enigmatic friendship, his association with Gene Hackman. After several decades of concealment, Clint's revealing remarks will render you speechless. What has he been concealing? From previously unrecorded accounts on Prepare to uncover the true reason behind their separation. Brace yourself for a revelation that may simply surprise you. Initial meeting regarding the beguiled Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman's pathways first intersected in 1971. During the production of The Beguiled, a Southern Gothic drama set amidst the Civil War. This was the initial instance of their on-screen collaboration, but the underlying tension between them had begun long before. Prior to the commencement of filming, Eastwood is depicted in the film as John McBurney, a Union soldier wounded and cared for by a group of Southern women at a residential school. Although their roles did not allocate significant screen time, additionally, Hackman had a minor role as a soldier. Nevertheless, behind the scenes, circumstances were already beginning to become increasingly complex. Eastwood and Hackman were highly renowned for their unwavering determination and individual viewpoints concerning performance. Former television gunslinger Eastwood carried out the role of the tough individual with minimal remarks, relying on his experience. Frequently, depending on his resilient appearance and a stoic demeanor to convey emotion, he valued maintaining a forthright approach. Conversely, Hackman was renowned for infusing his roles with significant intensity and emotional depth. He greatly enjoyed exploring the intricacies of his character's psychology and often crafted nuanced and complex portrayals. His presentations. The two actors encountered some disagreement regarding these variations in their performances. Methods. Eastwood, accustomed to pursuing his own methods, did not always align with Hackman's more deliberate and an advanced and refined acting technique. Then Hackman considered Eastwood's style to be overly simplistic and insufficiently refined. Although their beginnings were challenging, Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman both exhibited considerable determination to rise within Hollywood. Growing up in California, Eastwood frequently traveled with his family. He developed an interest in music during adolescence and subsequently began acting. He did not initiate attracting attention. However, it was not until he secured the role of Rowdy Yates on Rawhide. Decades of portraying the stern, reserved the rancher furnished him with a solid foundation in acting. Conversely, Gene Hackman originated from a humble background. Born in San Bernardino, California, was brought up in a challenging household. Eastwood's journey to glory commenced subsequent to Hackman's. Prior to pursuing an acting career, he engaged in various temporary employment, including clerk and messenger for several years. After completing his instruction at the renowned Pasadena Playhouse, Hackman ultimately performed minor roles in films. His significant breakthrough occurred when he was cast in The French Connection, a film that nearly immediately established his stardom. He gained recognition for his portrayal of characters with excellent substance, as his realistic and gritty approach was well suited for challenging roles. Eastwood was invariably a reserved individual. He required minimal words to effectively communicate his perspective. His significant breakthrough in Rawhide demonstrated that a skilled actor need not over-exaggerate. A section similar to the renowned Dirty Harry, his characters were distinguished by their stern and resolute demeanor. A brusque, emotionally distant demeanor. This was Clint's approach, to maintain discretion and keep it confidential. Indeed, allow the actions to demonstrate their own merit. In contrast, Hackman exemplified the complete opposite. Creating individuals with profound substance was where Hackman demonstrated exceptional skill. He contemplated each moment and delved into the psychological profile of the individual he was representing. Frequently, the individual who would conduct an in-depth exploration of the emotional dimension of a performance. He ensured that every movement and every phrase originated from an authentic source. Emotion. This indicates that he was not consistently the subdued, somber individual that Eastwood was. Hackman was truly vivid, assertive, and emotionally expressive instead. Their interaction on stage was adversely affected by this conflict. In various stylistic approaches, frequently employing a more restrained style, Eastwood would adhere to the script and allow the images convey their message independently. However, Hackman would advocate for increased emotional depth, raising questions the motivations of the characters and endowing the scene with greater personal vitality. Their contrasting approaches occasionally led to some conflicts during the production of The Beguiled. Their professional responsibilities, the relationship, disclosed this conflict as it was challenging for them to find mutual understanding. Creating The Beguiled entailed two formidable personalities clashing as frequently as they collaborated, capturing footage for a motion picture. Eastwood, who was in the initial stages of establishing his reputation as a prominent figure in Hollywood, and Hackman, who was still acclimating to the industry, did not always see eye to eye. Although their differing acting approaches led to some disagreements, it also marked the beginning of an enduring and captivating Hollywood romance. Although they disagreed, Eastwood and Hackman appreciated each other's competencies. Although they did not always concur, they could not deny each other's capacity to contribute a distinctive element to their respective professions. They were both recognized for their dedication to their commercial endeavors. Although it was challenging, working on The Beguiled provided them with an opportunity to enhance their skills in their respective trades and acquire knowledge from one another. However, despite their on-screen rivalry and contrasting acting styles characterized their initial interactions, their careers would soon develop in a markedly different direction. Different paths, shaped by their individual ambitions and methods of pursuing fame. Managing public recognition and private lives, Eastwood's and Hackman's careers began to diverge, separated as they ascended. Eastwood was no longer solely motivated by acting. He intended to supervise the films he engaged in more personal duties. He commenced directing and producing films in the late 19th century. 70s. He first directed Play Misty for Me, shortly thereafter followed by Dirty Harry. This indicated the beginning of Eastwood's transition from simply a prominent actor to an esteemed director. Eastwood continued to expand his ventures in the industry, undertaking increasingly challenging responsibilities, but he also initiated supervision of several of his own projects. Eastwood was more than merely an actor by the 1980s. He was a director producing films such as Gran Torino and The Outlaw Josie Wales and Unforged. These films enable him to engage with more complex characters and broader conceptual themes, and exhibited his proficiency in the background. Eastwood subsequently directed and composed compositions of films, receiving acclaim from critics for his distinguished work. Having received Academy Awards for cinematic works like $1 Million Baby and Unforgotten, he was no longer merely the rugged policeman or cowboy. He was one of the most esteemed directors in Hollywood. Hackman maintained his focus on acting while Eastwood was expanding his pursuits into directing. He continued portraying roles in major films such as The Conversation and Hoosiers, which garnered him additional nominations and recognition. Engaging in a broad range of personalities, from the stern, cynical officer to the empathetic instructor, Hackman was pleased to be in front of the camera. Eastwood and Hackman achieved considerable success in a rather various paths as their professions advanced rapidly. Eastwood was consistently a private individual. He maintained his personal life, remained private and away from the Hollywood spotlight. This might have been one of the factors enabling him to sustain a career for such an extended duration. Eastwood was not inclined to engage in the prestige contest. He favored subdued environments. He wishes to focus on his family. Let life and his career speak for themselves. Conversely, Hackman did not hesitate to undertake front stage, but he was neither trapped nor entangled in it. In contrast to Eastwood, he was recognized for exhibiting a slightly more energetic and expressive demeanor. Although he never allowed his passion for performing to dominate the forefront, Hackman valued the recognition and the associated advantages. Consistently selecting positions that piqued interest, he prioritized his principles over the prospect of a substantial financial gain, remaining grounded and focused on his craft. While Eastwood garnered attention for his films and subsequently for his directing, Hackman was emerging increasingly recognized for his capacity to portray complex, multidimensional characters. Hackman possessed a somewhat underdog aura in comparison to Eastwood's established movie celebrity image. They achieved fame in distinct ways, yet both enjoyed lengthy and successful careers. Clashing personalities, Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman were both prominent figures in their field, luminaries in Hollywood. But when it came to collaborating, circumstances were not always without difficulties. Although they shared mutual esteem for one another as actors, their professional relationship was characterized by instances of tension and a conflict of personalities. The motion picture Unforgiven is among their most renowned collaborations, but behind the scenes, there were numerous occasions that disclosed the genuine intricacy of their connection. Unforgiven was a significant film that featured Clint Eastwood assumes the role of director once more. Eastwood, who was already an accomplished actor and a filmmaker, opted to undertake a Western, but with a distinctive approach. This was not merely an ordinary rancher story. Film. It was a raw, somber, and authentic portrayal of the Wild West. Eastwood not only appeared as the lead actor and not only did he appear in the film, but he also directed it. The narrative centered on a retired outlaw, William Money, portrayed by Eastwood, who is summoned once again to undertake a perilous mission. Gene Hackman portrayed the corrupt sheriff, Little Bill Daggett, a character who exemplifies both authority and brutality. As you might expect, this film was characterized by intense and highly serious performances. Eastwood and Hackman's characters were on opposing factions of the law, which rendered their on-screen dynamic compelling. Their characters were resilient, uncompromising, and occasionally significantly defective. Observing them acting in unison resembled witnessing the convergence of two formidable elements of nature. However, that merely represented the superficial layer. Off-camera, the circumstances were somewhat more complex. Although they addressed matters in a somewhat various approaches, Eastwood and Hackman were both distinguished for their firm resolve and exceptional qualities. Commitment to their professional responsibilities. Always maintaining professionalism, Eastwood spoke sparingly. He desired certain matters, direct and averse to dwelling excessively on his performances. He considered the action and emotions would convey their meaning independently. Conversely, Hackman demonstrated a more meticulous and precise approach. He thoroughly relished exploring his characters, understanding their backstories and motives. Particularly when he held a dissenting opinion, he was also somewhat more outspoken. Frequently, this divergence in approach led to conflicts on set. Eastwood was widely acclaimed for his reserved, calm demeanor. Hackman was more demonstrative and openly conveyed his concepts. This led to several disagreements at the Unforgiven filming location. Subsequently, Hackman stated that he did not always concur with Eastwood regarding the approach to certain sequences, especially concerning the motivations of their characters. Eastwood was committed to maintaining a natural aesthetic and grounded, whereas Hackman sought to challenge boundaries and explore more profoundly his own identity. Eastwood and Hackman held a high level of professional respect for one another, despite differences in their working methodologies. Possessing both achieved their positions at the pinnacle and comprehended what was necessary to succeed in Hollywood. Eastwood was already widely recognized as a prominent action star and director, and Hackman had received an Academy Award honors for his captivating performances. They were both truly at their finest and unforgotten. Nevertheless, their contrasting personalities created an underlying sense of conflict despite their appreciation one another's abilities. Sometimes Eastwood regarded Hackman's performance as more impassioned and forceful, to be unsuitable, while Hackman frequently sought to examine every component of a scene, occasionally advocating for greater involvement. Eastwood was accustomed to maintaining control and managing affairs. Secure. Eastwood was renowned for his rigorous safeguarding of his directorial vision. Consequently, any deviation from that would result in annoyance. One account from the Unforgotten series exemplifies the complexity of the relationship between Eastwood and Hackman. Hackman was scheduled to deliver a passage of dialogue delivered with precise accuracy during a notably intense moment. However, at all times seeking to enhance the depth of his character, Hackman commenced improvising, thereby modifying the tone of the proceedings. Always a perfectionist, Eastwood regarded this modification as unacceptable and immediately ceased the capture. He softly yet insistently advised Hackman that the passage must be conveyed precisely as written. Previously accustomed to greater creative latitude, Hackman deemed this to be untenable. The conflict pertains to their somewhat varied nature, perspectives, as well as with decisions regarding actions. Eastwood had consistently been a person who contemplated in rigorous effort, discipline, and adherence to his preferred approach. Both during filming and off-camera, he maintained a conservative stance, a thinker who advocated for simplicity. In contrast, Hackman demonstrated greater openness to new concepts and modify accordingly. Often displayed in his acting, he was more progressive in his views, and thank you for examining the intricacies of existence. The chronological age disparity between Eastwood and Hackman added yet another factor contributing to increased tension between them. Eastwood was in his early 60s, and Hackman was in his late 50s when they collaborated on Unforgotten. Although their experiences vary, which enhances the sense of suspense, even when their separation appears minimal. Eastwood had been in the profession for decades and had already established himself as a director. Hackman was primarily focused on refining his acting technique. Both of them were in distinct contexts, phases in their careers. Therefore, their interactions on set varied according to their perspectives. Eastwood was in command. Hackman had consistently been one to challenge boundaries and pursue calculated risks. Possibilities. Their divergent perspectives on their respective positions within the sector generated a fraught atmosphere, active and adaptable. Occasionally, Eastwood's composed and understated technique contrasted with Hackman's more emotional approach. Intensity, evaluating their professional regard. With two highly acclaimed actors demonstrating reluctance to withdraw, the tension between them was unavoidable. But would it compel them, or are we aiming for greater heights or seeking to distance them further? The period of silence and increasing estrangement following decades of collaboration and individual pursuits in Hollywood. Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman took distinct trajectories in the final stages of their careers. Their previously intimate collaboration appeared to fade into stillness, with no public acknowledgement of each other for many years. This interval indicated the deterioration of their relationship and, in Hackman's instance, a complete withdrawal from the public observer. However, the underlying causes of their reticence and separation were far from straightforward. They were shaped by both personal and professional transformations that each individual experienced in their own manner. Gene Hackman's choice to depart from Hollywood surprised many admirers. Following decades of acclaimed films, including The French Connection, The Conversation, and Unforgiven, Hackman chose to step back from acting from the sector. Hackman was in his 70s by the early 2000s, and his decision was to withdraw from the celebrity status and the associated pressures rather than from his professional responsibilities. Hackman did not deliver a significant farewell or issue a prominent announcement regarding his departure. Instead, he progressed gradually, focusing on his personal life and achieving tranquility away from the spotlight. Many admirers inquired about the whereabouts of the actor who had been among Hollywood's most impassioned and esteemed performers. Some have speculated that Hackman was merely disinterested in the industry, as celebrity typically entailed sacrificing personal privacy. Others considered him to be dissatisfied with the types of categories that aging has introduced. Either way, Hackman departed from Hollywood in an enigmatic fashion that resulted in a void within the industry. Hollywood appeared to lose one of its most compelling aspects, and unpredictable figures when Hackman disappeared. Clint Eastwood's career continued to ascend. As Hackman withdrew from public view, Eastwood continued to produce and direct, and, in addition to his performances, he also pursued writing. He became one of the most highly regarded figures located in Hollywood. Eastwood adopted his role as a filmmaker, undertaking progressively more ambitious projects. Films such as Million Dollar Baby, Gran Torino, and American Sniper, in contrast to Hacker, who had departed the enterprise. Eastwood achieved acclaim not only for his portrayal of tough guy characters, but also for his skilled cinematography throughout his films consistently garnered prestigious awards. Long after Hackman had ceased speaking, his career had advanced to become even more prominent, and he continued to be a leading figure in Hollywood. Eastwood must have experienced the sorrow of losing his longtime companion, even as he relished this ongoing success. The retirement of Hackman served as a sobering reminder of the rapid pace at which Hollywood can change. From an individual, even someone with his considerable aptitude, Eastwood's career flourished. Yet his personal reflections gathered from interviews indicated that the years of seclusion between him and Hackman was not always straightforward to accept. Eastwood and Hackman's relationship appeared to develop further colder during this period. For many years, the two did not participate in any public events together. Further information regarding how their lives had diverged along different paths, regardless of whether they were rivals or had any other connection. A significant event had occurred between them. Once in disagreement on set, their personalities appeared to diverge. More distant as Eastwood focused on directing and Hackman withdrew from the scene. Conversely, in the context of a public dispute or significant disagreement, each individual's own trajectory inherently led to this result. Eastwood was often inquired about his previous ventures, especially those involving Hackman, in interviews, but he rarely offered any insightful analysis. Many years elapsed, during which both performers appeared willing to allow the past to remain in the past. This absence of public acknowledgement formulated inquiries regarding their relationship. Were they still acquaintances, or had the tension escalated? Remained briefly. For many years, the truth remained elusive as both actors concentrated on their respective careers, leaving admirers to contemplate the true nature of what transpired between them. The grand unveiling as Clint Eastwood advanced into the later phases of his career, he commenced to engage in greater reflection regarding his past, especially concerning his associations with other actors. In his interviews, Eastwood began to disclose information about Hackman and their period of collaboration. He acknowledged that, despite the differences in their personalities, he consistently acknowledged Hackman's acting talent. Their relationship, although frequently tense, was characterized by a profound, implicit comprehension of one another. The craft of others. Eastwood was meticulous in stating that Hackman's method of acting differed from his own, but that did not diminish its value. Eastwood also recognized that their collaboration on Unforgiven was among the most notable achievements of his career. Although there the working relationship faced its challenges, however, there was no denying the remarkable synergy they achieved together. Display. Eastwood discussed how Hackman delivered his role as the adversary, Little Bill, with a different approach. Eastwood recognized that Hackman's commitment to his character enhanced the quality of the film, and his performance was affluent and refined. Reflecting retrospectively, Eastwood appeared to recognize that Hackman had played a crucial role in several of the most significant moments of his career, serving not merely as a colleague. Eastwood also discussed his misgivings as well. Following the cessation of their collaboration, he wished he had made a greater effort to maintain contact with Hackman. The period of silence in between them let Eastwood understand that, despite their professional deference, they had not truly spent time together as acquaintances. He expressed some irritation regarding their differing trajectories and questioned whether circumstances might have been different if they had invested greater effort in maintaining their relationship. Eastwood also reflected on his own legacy in his remarks following Hackman's departure from Hollywood. The fact that Hackman withdrew from the spotlight served as a sobering reminder that, regardless of how your success does not guarantee that your popularity and recognition will endure indefinitely. Eastwood's extended duration career was a testament to his ability to adapt and reinvent himself. But the tranquil passing of Hackman served as a stark reminder that no individual would share the same fate. Although it left a void in Hollywood, Eastwood appeared to appreciate Hackman's decision to pursue his career on his own terms. Hollywood experienced a significant loss upon the retirement of Gene Hackman, not solely due to his acting talent, but also his unique approach to roles, which renders his absence deeply regretted. Even if each individual component the character was morally complex or even malevolent. However, Hackman possessed a talent for rendering each individual convincingly authentic. Never one to shy away from challenging assignments, he was regarded as one of the most esteemed performers for his era due to his profound profundity and realism. Hackman's absence merely underscored how distinctive Eastwood's performances had been exemplary, while his career continued to flourish. Although many failed to attend, his performances suggested that Hackman's retirement appeared to be a reflection of his desire to embrace life outside of the Hollywood spotlight, and it was commendable that he elected to establish distance when he was still at the peak of his performance. As Clint Eastwood discusses his longtime companion and co-star Gene Hackman, it is evident that their relationship is something special, genuinely exceptional. For more remarkable stories of this nature, please remember to like, subscribe, and activate the notification chime for updates.